Good evening, everyone. So we're going to hand out some literature. Or Jane did, okay. Well, it's very nice to be here with you tonight. And I was thinking as I came over, because this is the end of a very long campaign season, the night when I had my council debate at the chapel 8 years ago, and the first house party that I did, I think in my campaign ever, in Eastwood. I still call it Eastwood. But it is wonderful to be back here with you tonight. It has been my honor and privilege to represent you in the City Council for 8 years, but really to work with so many of you who are here tonight for 15 years on a whole host of different issues, and I was thinking about that too on the way over tonight. From my first crisis in office, which was the tram going out over the East River, and how many of you came down to the hearings we had at City Hall to save the tram, because we were also afraid that George Pataki was going to use that as an excuse to shut the tram forever. And Matt, remember our fight to get the tram in the MetroCard system, which seems like a very long time ago. But to open the parks that we have at South Point Park, when Eastwood came out of Mitchell-Lama, to work with so many of you to keep tenants in their homes, because that was early on when buildings were first coming out of Mitchell-Lama, and it wasn't a given that everybody got to stay in the buildings. But certainly there is a lot more work to be done all over the borough, all over the city. I'm not going to run through my record because I would hope by now many of you know it. But I am running for borough president on a platform of trying to fight to make the whole borough a more affordable place for middle class and for working families. And I say that having seen the city change a lot over the last almost 40 years and seen Manhattan change a lot. And I look at my peers who are raising kids like we are, going to public school. Both my husband and I work, as many of you know, trying to make a go of it. And people like my mom, who really wonders if she's going to be able to stay in the borough. And there is a lot that the borough president can do to make this a more affordable place, to give parents a greater voice in the education system, and to try and create jobs. And I have 7 policy papers up on my website. I'm not going to bore you by going through them all this evening, but I do encourage you to go and take a look if you haven't. And I know you have some questions that you want to ask of me, so I will transition to that before I close. How about that, Alan? Does that work? Okay.
Do you have any other questions?
Why don't you go ahead and ask me them, because I don't know them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so affordable housing, which you addressed a bit. The new Roosevelt Island residential developments are all luxury rentals or condos. Even the affordable housing component of these buildings are made up of apartments only for hospital personnel at Weill Cornell and Memorial Sloan Kettering, and not available to the general public. Well, with Roosevelt Island wire buildings planning to leave or already left Mitchell-Lama programs, what will you do to preserve housing on Roosevelt Island?
So I assume you're talking again about the Northtown buildings that are Westview, Island House, River Cross, specifically. What I think what I have done is indicative of what I would do, which is to continue to work with the residents here to try and protect you. And each building is different, you all know that, with different goals and with different practices of getting there. Some of the buildings have been easier to work with than others, but I am certainly here and at your service to try and help each of those 3 with whatever transitions happen or possibly don't happen, to try and keep people here. And it's, I think that's probably enough to answer that question. I could go on and on, but it's, 8:45.
The Cornell campus will have significant impacts on the island, both during construction and once classes begin. How will you ensure Cornell will act as a good neighbor, protecting the needs of existing island residents and giving back to the local community? Specifically during construction phase, what will you do to ensure as best as you can that Cornell barges most of the construction material, works with Roosevelt Island community organizations, and contributes its fair share to the finances of RIA?
So first I want to thank you, Ellen, for your leadership on this issue. I don't know who else is here, if Larry is here, or there was, I see Linda is here, and I don't know if Joyce is here, but at any rate, there was a very large coalition of active, engaged members of the community, and you changed the project in meaningful ways. And I say that having been a land use chair in the City Council for 4 years and having worked on a lot of different development projects over time. And this community was organized and focused on what you wanted, and that made a huge difference. And I'm very proud of the fact that we got pages and pages, hey Joyce, I just mentioned you, you're back. Pages and pages and pages addended to the lease as part of the agreement with the city. That doesn't happen, really, ever. And so it was a big deal. Some of the commitments that were made were also similarly big deals. If I'm elected borough president, I will be there to keep them to their word. And I say that because this is not the only project they have. It's not the only project they care about. It's not the only property that they own. And I know what they committed to better than anybody else. Frankly, they committed it to us, and I will hold them to it in a way that I don't think the other three really would be focused on or committed to.
Thank you. Transportation. How can public transportation on Roosevelt Island be improved? Better subway service, additional bus service to Astoria and Long Island City, a ferry stop, East River ferry service.
So I feel like I blew in the face from the number of times I've talked about East River ferry service coming to Roosevelt Island. And I have, as you all know, put money into the city budget for years and years and years for a ferry landing here on the island. And I have fought with Seth Pinsky, I have fought with Jeanette Zada-Khan. That doesn't make me unique in the city of New York. There are lots of people who fight with those two. But I, at least as part of the Cornell Tech project, did get a commitment to start a pilot for ferry service for next year. I would like for there to be regular ferry service at a subsidized price. I have for years. I have never given up the fight. I have constantly pushed that. We're going to at least give it a go next year. I think it's going to be a great success, just the way the ferry service everywhere else has been a great success. And the ability to connect into other places along the East River is only going to make it better. That's something where you know where I am, not because I'm saying it, but because I've done it, because my record's very clear, and I would continue to work with you on that.
Thank you very much. Would you like,
sure.
Anybody write any more questions? You write a question?
She did. Yeah.
And the question is, not a question for all the candidates.
Well, you can ask the other candidates, but...
Are the other candidates coming? Have they been here? Just curious.
We have John Lewis here.
Nobody in my race, the borough president, no.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yes. Why did you back Cornell for Roosevelt Island? You asked good questions recently. Why did you not raise questions on the effect of Cornell on Roosevelt Island, on the negative effect on Cornell on Roosevelt Island before it was a done deal? What commitments were made in writing as opposed to Cornell will try?
So I think the best thing would be to send you the 7 pages worth of things that we're committed to. And I raised a whole host of questions. I raised the questions that the community raised, and to my mind, I got answers. And I would be very happy to send you those answers. So if you can make sure that you give Jane or Maya your email address before we leave tonight, we'll get you that information.
But why did you back it initially? Why would it be better for the people on Roosevelt Island for it to be here than any other place in the city?
Because I think this is a fantastic place, and I think it's a great location for the facility. I think it's going to be a great boon for the island in the end, and you clearly disagree with me. But we're going to agree to disagree on that.
One more question that was asked to John Blue. Will you keep and would you push for keeping and continuing to expand bike pedestrian lanes throughout the city and boroughs?
Could you ask me that again?
Bike lanes, would you try to, I don't know if this is any a borough president issue, but would you keep and continue to
I would
expand
keep bike lanes in the borough. Yes, I would. Yeah. What I have said many times when I've been asked this before is I think there's some places that they have worked better than in others. I have been a proponent of them in many locations around the borough, and I think they've worked well. There are other places where I don't think they've worked as well. As borough president, I would do a top to bottom, block by block analysis, because often they were put in without the input of communities or community boards to give the kind of feedback that is helpful to discuss where exactly they should be. But for example, I think they have worked well mostly on First Avenue. I don't think they have worked well on Broadway between 23rd and 14th Street. So I would like to do a thoughtful analysis of making sure that they're keeping bikers safe, pedestrians safe. I would like there to be more enforcement. But all in all, I think they've been great. And I'm a City Bike member. I like using City Bike.
Thank you very much.
So I'm just, last question, or not last question? Okay. So I'm just gonna say that it's wonderful to be here with you tonight and to have spent some time with you. I've been, as I said when I began, very, very proud to represent you here on Roosevelt Island and to work with you for a decade and a half. And I know we haven't all agreed on everything all the time, but I think we've accomplished a great deal. And this is a fantastic, very special place. And it's been a very special place to me as part of my district. And there are also people here who I look at not just as constituents, but frankly as friends. We have spent Saturdays and Sundays together. Some of your children have worked in my office. We've spent holidays together, and that has meant a lot to me. And I hope that we continue to work together in a role with me serving you as borough president, but no matter what, there are people in this room who have been friends, and I hope we'll continue to be friends for a very long time. And I hope to have your votes on September 10th. Thank you.